Hey Right Riders, Keith Wheeler here, back with another video for you. And if you're interested in creating children's picture books and you don't have any artistic ability and you want to deal with an illustrator, then this is the video you want to check out. Because today I'm actually going to be reviewing the illustrations that I got from my illustrator for my next book, Mimi's Adventure Series. So if you want to know how to deal with illustrators, then check this out. I'm going to flip the screen around and let's get started. Okay, here we are. On the page, we're going to start looking at the illustrations, the first draft that we got. Now, I will tell you that just a little bit of a heads up on how I did this. I messaged Harry. Harry is my illustrator. He was the illustrator for book 1. I gave him the script for book 2, the manuscript, and I basically have it set up just in a text document. And depending on how much direction you want to give your illustrator. So basically what I did is I had them separated by pages. I had the different text, and then in parentheses, I put just a rough idea of what I was looking for. I always like to leave some artistic ability for the actual illustrator. You know, they're just as important to the creation of the book as the author is, you know, especially for a picture book. So that's kind of the background on it. This is the cover he came up with. It's an amazing cover. Right here is actually right down the middle. This is going to be the spine. This is going to be the back cover. So I did give him a blurb later on to put on the back, and we'll see that in a bit. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because I don't want this video to be super long. So let's get started. So on the cover, I absolutely love it. I was going back and forth on whether or not I wanted this open. So as soon as they see the book, the cover, they see what the surprise is. But for this particular book, that's not that big of a deal, because the truth is you'll learn really early on what the surprise is. The rest of the book is basically about giving the dog a name. And so that's kind of the thought behind it. So I was fine with kind of leaving this obvious. Also, since kids love animals, I thought it was another way to kind of get the child drawn in right from looking at the cover. So I absolutely love it. So we'll move on to the next one. So this is going to be page 1. And the sun came up on the little farm to a day full of surprise. Today would be a special day. Little girl was turning 5. And so when I first look at the illustrations, I want to make sure that it's not super literal, because the thing about a children's picture book is your illustrations should be making the children, wonder and think and start noticing all these little things. And so, it would have been easy for Harry to just put a barn and the little girl and Mimi, and that's it, right? But he didn't. He put the different animals because it is a farm, and he added all these little things that, as the parent is reading it to the child, they can point things out. What is this? It's a pig. What does a pig say? Things that take it beyond just the storybook that it is. So we've got that. Another thing that I look at is, and this could be either a mistake on the illustrator's part or it could be a mistake on my part when it comes to when I sent the manuscript over, is looking at the punctuation. So we're gonna keep a look at, an eye on that as well. And so those are the kind of things I look at. You want to make sure the spelling is fine. Obviously, in your manuscript, you want to do that ahead of time. You want to give them, exactly what you want. So you minimize the amount of back and forth. And the only back and forth you really should be on the illustrations itself. Many times when you're working with a new illustrator, they're going to give you like a black and white, a sketched version of the book. Typically, you're not going to get something like this where it's in full color. But since Harry and I have worked together and he's worked on book 1, we already know what the main characters look like. And so we didn't have to worry so much about that. But if you're working with a new illustrator or an illustrator new to your book, one thing you want to look at is the illustration type, is the style, what you're looking for, what you envision for your book. And you want to really learn that early on and hopefully in that sketch phase before they start adding color and depth and everything else, because that's just a waste of their time. So really, I'm not concerned in this book about the artistic style because we already set that with book 1. And that was one reason why I wanted to stick with Harry for the subsequent books, is because we already have that relationship and he's already familiar with the characters. So moving on to page 2. So this one is, and this is actually going to be, this is actually technically page 5 and 6, as it says right up here on the top. This is just part of it. The other side is going to be just a stretch of the, not a stretch, but it's going to be a continuation of the background. And so one page is not going to have any words. It's just going to be illustrations, and the other one's going to be the illustrations and the words. So yeah, so that's that. So we've got here, Mimi was a little scared. What big gift would her girl get? Would this new gift take her place? Just the thought made her upset. And if you look, one of the first things I noticed is little girl is upset right here. And it's her birthday. She shouldn't be upset, right? So that was one of the changes I had him make. Again, just little things like that, the expressions on the faces, they need to make sense with the story. And then here we've got Mimi's mom comes in. She tells the little girl to close her eyes, and Mimi holds her breath. Little girl's given a big surprise and pulls it close to her chest. So, that's her basically being given the gift. One of the requests I made is, it says, mom says, close your eyes. Her eyes should be closed. It's that simple. Technically you could have them open and it was, maybe after the fact, whatever, that's kind of neither here nor there. It's just a decision you need to make. Even just something as simple as the little puzzle pieces down here, everything just really comes together. Okay, so then this is the next one. Again, it's really important that this stays consistent, so it doesn't look different from one page to the other. This is when they start trying to guess what it is. What is that? Mimi asks, pointing at the little girl's new gift. It has 4 legs, a wagging tail, and really likes to lick. So one of the changes I requested on this is that how can she know that the box isn't open yet, right? And so it's the request I made is for the box to be open, but the reader can't see it. So basically, only little girl and Mimi can see what's in there, and that's why Mimi's able to know that it's got 4 legs and a wagging tail and that kind of stuff. So little things like that. Also, one thing that I didn't mention in the previous page, but was a big deal to me, is the fact that I didn't tell him to do this, but he made holes in the box. That just makes sense. It's a living creature. It needs to be able to breathe, right? And so that was something that I didn't request, but Harry put that in there. And so that just, again, was just an added bonus on something that he thought of that I didn't even think of, but makes perfect sense. Okay. And then this is when they actually pop the top off. Another change that I made here is, and this could be something in the manuscript, I didn't go back and check, but if you look, I say, it's a puppy, says the little girl. Isn't it a gem? I'm going to need your help, Mimi, to find a name for him. And each line has quotes around it. And what that looks like from the reader's perspective is it looks like it's multiple people talking. And it's really not. It's all Mimi's little girl. And so what I requested is that this is going to stay the same, but this is going to have an opening quote right here. And then the rest, this is going to be removed. This is going to be removed. And it's just going to close right here. And so it's just going to look like one continuous quote. Again, little things like that can really make a difference on how the book looks. Does it look professional? Doing it like this can add confusion and just not look as professional as if we make it one continuous statement. And I'm not talking about not putting punctuation in, because that's the other thing. Adding in punctuation, commas, that kind of stuff is something that I also made requests as I read through the different pages. Again, it could have been a mistake on my part. Maybe I didn't put the punctuation in my manuscript, but either way, I wanted to make sure that the end result was, in the book, it was fixed. So moving on to here, we could call him Bluey because his eyes are perfectly blue. So again, it's going to have punctuation here. Another thing, and this was really important for if you're working with someone that's outside of your country or who doesn't speak, in this case, English as well, which I didn't have a problem with Harry, but I could see somebody possibly putting a period on the outside and not on the inside of the quote. Little things like that, again, show professionalism and make sure that it looks like it's traditionally published or again, just professional. So it needs to have a period, but the period needs to be in the proper spot grammatically. Also, and then it says, Mimi didn't like that name. What about you? All right, moving on. Again, it's just, little things like, I said his eyes are perfectly blue, making sure that the eyes are blue. Little things like that, little attentions to detail we want to catch, because obviously we ideally don't want to make any changes, right? We hope it's right the first time, but it's not, because regardless of what kind of direction you give them, there's always this chance that that what their vision is and your vision aren't necessarily the same. And just remember that the illustrator is an imperative part of the picture book making process. And so you want to make sure that they're able to kind of give their vision too. And so even if it's not 100% what you envisioned, don't necessarily just shrug it off, and say, no, do it my way. Their way may be valid and may end up working better. So again, when it's coming to the illustrations, just be open and give them some direction, but also allow them to show their creativity as well. So then this one says she thought of naming him Wags because his tail perfectly wiggles, but hearing that name said out loud gave Mimi a case of the giggles. So again, the punctuation on this period after wiggles. But one thing I wanted to point out is she thought of naming him Wags because his tail perfectly wiggles, but his tail's not wagging. It's not wiggling. And so again, just little hash marks to show movement. So that was a request that I made. We can call him Fluffy because his fur is perfectly soft, but when he shook, his hair flew and Mimi started to cough. Again, in this illustration, adorable dog, blue eyes, so he kept that consistency, but he's not shaking. He's not, there's no hair going anywhere. So again, another request that I made. Look, he's got perfect round spots on top of his head, but Mimi frowned. She was sad and started heading to bed. And no problems with this illustration. Again, I like the consistency. They've still got the puzzle down here. You used to say I was perfect, Mimi said with a tear in her eye. Mimi, you still are. That's why you're here by my side. Again, no issues here. Okay, so another little inconsistency that's here, right? Look, right now, she's got her socks on. She's not wearing any shoes, right? And then in this very next one, looks like sandals on. So again, we needed to be consistent. So that was a change that I had made. We're in this together. I really need your help. There's no way I can name this puppy all by myself. Again, punctuation, one single round of quotes around the whole thing. Perfect. It's normal to sometimes be afraid of something that is new. You're not alone. Sometimes I feel this way too. A comma after alone would be nice. So again, a request that was made. But as far as the illustration, everything looks good. Mom says that change is a big part of life. You can let it scare you or let it excite. So again, just little things like, she's a little bit sad, but kind of getting a little bit of a smirk here because she's being told that it's okay and it's normal. Mimi hugged the little girl, wiped a tear from her eye. If you need the perfect name, let me help you decide. Requested a period after I. Again, little things like that, little punctuation. Again, her shoes are on, so we need to make sure, again, we're consistent. And they're still on, so what I had him do was go back and put the shoes on the other illustration. She thought, I know what the perfect name could be. This puppy's just perfect. Let's call him JP. So a comma after B, and the quote should go away from here and down here. Again, little things like that, but it, again, it makes a big difference. And then at the end, then they all climbed in bed, got tucked under the sheet. Then JP, Mimi, and little girl slowly drifted off to sleep. Just a little bit of punctuation requests here. Other than that, looks good. So again, that was round one. Not too bad at all. So then we went and I sent the changes over. Okay, so first of all, here is the cover with the back blurb. And then so here were just some of the changes I made with the punctuation. So I'm not gonna go through and reiterate all of this. But again, instead of showing Mimi's little girl upset, it's actually just Mimi here upset and thinking of the little girl and thinking of what her present's gonna be and stuff like that. So yeah, so just, again, little minor tweaks that make a really big difference. So this is the one where the box is open. You don't see the puppy yet. The puppy's like laying down underneath. Again, it makes the kid wonder what's inside, And so, because that's what it is. What is that, And so the characters see it, but you don't. And so it really brings that question and that wonder to the child. And then there it is. And I will tell you, one little suggestion I made or request was, if you notice on this one, there's no lid here, but then on this one, there is a lid. And so, again, a little bit of consistency that we need to keep in mind. And this is something that the illustrator's just excited drawing the illustrations and things like that. So we need to make sure, as the final decision makers, we need to make sure that things make sense. Now, obviously, there's a really good chance it's not going to be perfect, and that's fine. But we want to do our best. We don't want to go a lot of different routes and a lot of different rounds of changes and things like that, because at some point you're just nitpicking. And again, done is better than perfect. But little things like consistencies and the quotes and punctuation, those are things that are important to me as an English major, as well as I want to make sure that when they're reading to the child, that they that they don't catch things like that, because that could lead to negative reviews. It doesn't change the story, but the parent, guardian, the ones reading it, they're the ones that have the chance of leaving the review. So we want to make sure that we minimize the amount of negativity that they could point out. So there's the wagging tail right there. This is him shaking and showing that hair's flying off. Here she is sneezing, or coughing. I'm sorry, she's coughing. So again, little changes like that bring the illustrations to life, and really have them work in tandem with the text. This one was just punctuation changes. Still has to fix the feet, add the shoes on there. This is just punctuation. I think most of it was punctuation after that. Yep. So that was it. And then he did this is actually the title page and the copyright page, which first of all, he did it as a spread, which KDP doesn't work in spreads, and most print-on-demand companies don't. And so I had him separate it. Also, the order he had it on would be the other way around. The copyright page would be after it. So yeah, so I just had him split this up. Technically, I could have done it in GIMP or whatever platform I wanted to use. But since he was making other changes anyway, I just had him split it into two different pages. So one thing I wanted to point out is on this page, if you look, I'll zoom in a little bit. Mimi's happy right here, right? But this says Mimi was a little scared. She doesn't look scared, right? And so again, that was a change that I had him make. So here she is now scared. I did have him put the puppy in here because the more I looked at it, it really, if you know a puppy and a puppy's excited, they're not going to be down low, right? Okay, so this one was just some quote changes. Same thing here. Yeah, so most of these changes were just quotes. The only other additional change was, and that's the old title page. The only was again her looking sad. So those are changes that I had him make. I do have one minor round left where I just have him go back and change that one picture and have him put the shoes on her. Other than that, I've got absolutely no qualms with it. I think he did a great job. I already have the manuscript for book 3, and as soon as this one is done, I'm gonna have him start working on that one. Well, there you go. That's how I review illustrations from my illustrators for my children's picture books. Let me know if you have any questions about the process down in the comments. Also, if you're looking to get an illustrator, let me know how you find your illustrators. Again, let me know that in the comments as well. Now, if you're looking to find illustrators and you want to check out Fiverr, I did this video right here all about finding illustrators on Fiverr. I tested a few of them out, and you can check out and see how they turned out. If you've already seen that video, or maybe you're not interested in that, well, YouTube says that this video right here has got your name written all over it. So I'll catch you in one of these videos, and remember to write right.